In this week's video, I want to share the best images I got from a recent two-night trip to a farm overlooking Akaroa Harbour, about an hour's drive from where I live in Christchurch. I had been there about a year ago, and although I got some good shots then, I wanted to see what I could get this time without repeating what I'd done last year. In particular, I wanted to see if I could take a time-lapse from a different location to the time-lapse I took last year and experiment with merging night to day time-lapse or parts of the time-lapse. Here's an abbreviated version of the time-lapse I got last year. I only managed a few shots on the first evening, after a late arrival left us just enough time to unpack and get something to eat. The first morning dawned with a few clouds overhead, but I managed to get a few shots in and also have a good look around. So I'm just at Ocean Point Farm. It's just before sunset. I'm on the point. It's really beautiful light, and I'm going to move around and take a few shots. I can see a really nice shot down the harbour there. It's kind of misty and soft, and maybe I'll get a bit of the clouds in at the top of the clouds. Make a nice composition there. So I'm going to get going while the light's good. So just seeing quite a nice shot developing over there with the sun coming up over the hill and Akaroa itself. So I'm going to get a shot. I've actually set the drone to come home automatically so that I can carry on setting up with this shot. On the afternoon of the first full day, I found a really good location to set up a time-lapse. And although I can leave a time-lapse running automatically, I couldn't really leave it here because of some curious cows who were likely to tip it over. So I've got a time-lapse running here at the highest point on the farm, looking down the harbour. Really nice view. Shot every 7 seconds. I'm using a automatic release that adjusts the exposure as it gets darker, as I'm probably nearly on sunset, so it needs to adjust the exposure as it gets dimmer and dimmer, and it does it in a particular order: shutter speed, aperture, and then ISO. Unfortunately, I messed up the end of the afternoon time lapse, so I couldn't leave it running until dark. So I didn't stay out late on the second evening. I had an early start the following morning because I wanted to set up the time-lapse camera in exactly the same position as the evening before and get it running while it was still dark. I had left some sticks and stones to mark the spot where I had set up the tripod the previous afternoon. And although I had taken a reference shot so I knew where to line up my camera, seeing the reference points in the dark proved pretty challenging. I did get a pretty good lineup, but unfortunately there was a problem with my automatic exposure system, and I've got some quite bad flickering in the dawn to sunrise segment, and it's proving quite hard to remove. I've yet to analyze what went wrong, but I'll probably run some tests before I use that particular time-lapse controller again. Anyway, here are both time lapses merged together, and you'll probably notice some flickering in the dawn to sunrise segment. A bonus of shooting time lapses with a high resolution camera is you can grab individual frames and develop these as separate images when the lighting's at its optimum. I've included a few of these in the following sequence along with some of the best shots I captured over the couple of days away. So if you've been following my channel for a while, you'll know that I love learning. And what did I learn from these 2 days away? Well, some things are not going to go to plan, and that's okay. You can learn from that and adapt for next time. Also, it's not a bad thing to go back to a location over time. The thing about being a landscape photographer is it's always going to be different weather, different seasons. So you can always get something new. The advantage of going back to a place that you know is that you already know the lie of the land, you know where the best potential spots are, and you can push yourself to create new shots or do things differently. So the gear I used the most on this trip was my main camera and a Tamron 35-150 lens, which is very versatile. I also used the drone quite a bit, and my most recent accessory, which I purchased in the last year, was an electric bike. And if you're watching next week, I'm going to cover the electric bike and how I set it up for photography. That's all for this week. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.